Good morning, judges. Good morning, team, and good morning, audience. Hello there. So, we are Digest. We are an online legal service platform where you can book lawyers, particularly for startup legal needs. So, we help people solve founders' dilemmas. As founders, we always have legal issues, right? We need help, advice incorporating. What type of corporation should be set up? Where should we set up? Philippines, Singapore, Delaware. Fundraising, should it be a safe note, convertible note? What's the best vesting schedule? And scaling. Every time you grow, you will always have labor needs, intellectual property needs, corporate law needs. Founders are power users of legal services. But traditionally, if you need a lawyer, it's either you approach a known law firm, which is very old school, or you ask a friend for referral or word of mouth. And there are some challenges that you encounter there. The prices are not quoted upfront. It's hourly prices if ever, pricing if ever. Many people are not familiar with startups, and you go through a long onboarding process, which could take weeks, usually depending on the meetings, just to give you a scope of work. In Digest, we believe in upfront pricing. By upfront, the milestones are clearly spelled out, like the scope of work. You can already see it before even paying. We believe in fixed fees. We try to have a good experience for our users and all onboarding online. So you can see a sample like I want a company or I have a company. Either way, you need a lawyer. And in our screen, if you see here, you can see actually our idea is that you have a menu of legal services. It's just like you have to pick on like a restaurant, like do I need a business registration? Do I need a trademark registration? Am I selling my shares of stock? With the prices there, the scope of work, the payment schedule, and then you can pay through Visa, MasterCard, GrabPay, e-wallet, whichever you feel is best. So you are guided through that process and you're matched with a good lawyer. So we are based actually in the Philippines, Digest.ph. So right now we're focused on our local market, though hopefully we get to expand in the future. So there are 957,000 registered businesses just in the Philippines. What more when you go to the Asia Pacific region, which we're looking at also more intently. And we can see that there are really a lot of startups that could use the help here. So we estimate at least in the Philippines 2 billion market, but globally, depending on the statistic you're looking at, around 500 billion to 1 trillion, the legal services market. So a bit of context on our journey. So we started 2019 ideation. I was still a law student. 2010, we incorporated, joined the first incubator back here in Manila. 2021 became ramen profitable and kind of pivoted our model more from a freelance marketplace style to a more centralized model, like a hybrid between a law firm and a marketplace. And then 2022, we finally became profitable. I was able to quit my job to go full time here, and we scaled already to 10 team members. And also, we developed a SaaS tool, this time no longer targeted towards startups, but targeted towards law students and legal researchers, and also legal professionals, because we're trying to target both sides in the legal service market. The sellers are the lawyers, and the buyers are the clients. So we're trying to make sure that we attract both sides of the supply and demand. So that's our journey. Um, so we're by lawyers, so half the team's lawyers. So of the 10, but these are two most senior. So it's me as the lawyer, chief executive officer, and our software engineer, Duke. So I said I quit my job in 2022. So I used to, when I was a law student back in 2019, I joined the mid-sized law firm 2020, became in-house counsel for a startup impact fund where we were investing in the startups already. That's why I decided to focus on startups. And so this is the team, and Duke has been with us from the very start, building the whole platform. So we have strong connections with different people in the local Philippine system, investors, equity crowdfunding, incubators, industries of the future. We try to partner, since we're targeting startups, we try to work with other startup enablers that work in the same system. So we're often the mentor, the legal service provider, just already close to the clients. So normally our clients are either domestic growth stage startup or foreign business owners trying to go to market in the Philippines, trying to enter the Philippines. So we've grown 80% this year. Proud to say that we are profitable, cash flow positive, bootstrapped entirely. So you can see here, since we're in the last 10 seconds. So we are cash flow positive. We'll intend to end the year at around 160,000 US dollars estimate, with our expense expected to close at around $78,000. We have not raised any outside capital. But we intend to be like LegalZoom or Awesome, which are popular companies in the United States and Singapore. So again, thank you very much to our panelists. Happy to discuss in the Q&A.
Thank you for your pitch. We will now start the Q&A session. Your 15 minutes starts now.
Hi guys, I just joined midway.
No worries.
I'm a lawyer as well, and yeah, interesting what you have built. So I've got one question, a few number of questions. One is, I see a suite of products that you offer, and you compare yourself to Awesome and LegalZoom on both aspects, because one is more of a company incorporator, ComSec services. The other is more legal services. Where do you see yourselves at present?
So thank you, Jason. So we see ourselves as more legal services, truthfully. We intend to price our business reg not that high. For us, it's the cost of acquiring the customer. But once we do well with the client, like they tend to stay with us, right? So there's more lifetime value. Like if the business reg might not be as lucrative as compared to say like just doing a lot of contracts or doing their M&A or fundraising transaction, but we see that the more lucrative side, and as here on the screen, the contract preparation and retainer plans have a better share of our revenue, right? So we would like to be more in the legal service side, just not to distinguish ourselves from Awesome, which is more like business formation and compliance.
Yeah, the need for lawyers, even like for a 150 man company, you probably just need one lawyer.
Correct.
So the recurrency of transactions may not be as frequent, unless it's like some massive hot startup that's signing partnership agreements every other week. Then you gotta review a lot of things, or a fintech heavy one that's so reg driven that you have to be quite hands-on with that. Is there any restrictions on the advertisement of legal services in Philippines?
So that's a great question. So yes, similar to the US, where there was a large fight for legal service and legal ethics, the Philippines is very old school in the sense that corporations are not allowed to practice law, and that advertising is not considered a protected speech here. So that's why we chose to do it through a platform style, where Digest is distinguished from the law firm proper or the law firms proper, so that it's just matching you with legal service providers. Um, but the platform is the one that's doing the advertising.
And do you see yourself playing as a middleman layer role for a long term throughout the life cycle of a company, or do you see them tapering off after they become sizable or where they interact directly with the law firm?
That's a great question. So truthfully, we'd like obviously to stay with them as long as possible. So we do see in startups at least though, around Series A or Series B, usually they tend already to go to like bigger regional cross-border firms that can cater to their different office needs. But we see ourselves from that pre-seed up to right before Series A. We've noticed even if they start out at one employee, but say at they're at 50 or 100 employees, they still tend to stay with us. So to your point, yes, we notice it's not economical for them to have like a big legal team in house, right? They just have some legal questions that they might need assistance with or contract help from time to time.
So for companies of those that you've just mentioned, the duration, because you mentioned a few, you hope to capture them over a series of few development phases. And how many years are you looking at, like and then also like how much value can you grab out of them? Because I just want to understand, the lifetime value of such customer, and like how, as a business perspective, how much can we optimize in capturing the value from them?
So that's a great question. So truthfully, we don't have so much data because it's only I think in the past 2 years that we've been able to really maximize it. But I would say at least $20,000 per company would be the around the type of value, like the lifetime value. I'm not sure, there haven't been a lot yet that have dropped off, but since our time that we started, like per company, if they might start with like $1,000 business registration, but they'll later evolve into like legal retainer plans, like if they like us, and then when they try to fundraise, We also help them with their safe note or their due
Right.
diligence. So so far based on the data, but I could not say if hopefully they will last longer than 2 years.
Right. Right. So this is USD you just quoted, right?
Correct.
Okay, got it. Any more question, Jason, on the legal
Oh,
front?
I see a lot of itemized menus on your website. Do you do contract templates
Ah,
or do you give more hand holding?
actually, that's a great question. Actually, on our website, I didn't feature it, but we have an electronic contract template, like a form of lead generation, or like a very simple founders agreement or a very simple lease contract. We save the better versions of the contract, like if you work with us and hire us. But for like $10, you might get a very simple version of that. That if you're not yet ready at the ready to pay stage.
Mhm. I see. How much are you raising and where will it bring you?
That's a great question. So how much we are raising is um, truthfully, we have seen in the startups that like the funding rounds are not as big as they once were. So truthfully, that's why we were very excited to hear about our pre-seed competition today, right? That there could be an equity-free grant that we'd like to build out our legal research line. That's the one sorry, and it's on screen, the 2023. Because on our legal research line, we're actually also profitable, that business unit, where people pay $8 to $12 a month to access our law library and legal research, kind of like LexisNexis or um, other law libraries. So since we already have a lot of paying subscribers, we also want to firm that up just so we can ensure that there will be a lot more lawyers in the ecosystem. And then with that lawyer supply, we can already go back to scale the client side. So
So
uh,
how many customers or users now for this?
okay, so we have 100 paying subscribers. Okay. And then we get around 100 daily signups a day. So we get around 5,000. Our Google Analytics show around 1 million impressions a month, with around 70,000 visiting our website organically without any um, marketing efforts, marketing spend.
Okay. So, sort of like building upon Jason's question, what's your? I know it's very early to ask this, but I find it a good practice because it's like, you can't plan a good journey if you don't know your destination. So where do you see your business exit strategy at? I mean, is this something that you want to build and sell? Or if this is something that you want to build and go and build a legacy company out of this, like what's your plan here, and what do you want?
Thank you, Paul. That's a wonderful question. So truthfully, I've thought about this long and hard.
Mm,
That's why actually I realized that I really want to build a long-term business. That's why I've
mm,
been slow, like just focus on cash flow and profitability. So
mm,
I want to retain control of my company.
mm,
I want this is not a build and sell to the next startup. Like this is what I want to do for life.
mm,
So truthfully, like at most maybe an IPO
mm,
would be the goal,
mm.
but I do not plan to sell or cash out. This is the legal field and I enjoy it.
Okay. And IPO, which have you got any idea which market that you
Uh,
want to
s-
IPO at? Singapore,
Singapore
this
or Australia.
got it.
Australia
Okay.
also has a strong legal tech. Aside from, of
Mm,
course, Singapore being like a very strong startup hub here in
mm,
Southeast Asia.
got it. Okay. So your revenue, can you share with us your revenue again? How much have you earned to date?
Um,
Uh
so for this year, 160,000.
mm,
To date, around 240,000,
mm.
uh, give or take, depending on
Okay.
how it closes December, right?
And
But
60,000 bootstrap, that's from the founders, the co-founders own pocket.
yes, I have funded everything out of pocket, so I've been trying to avoid losses as much as possible.
Right. But you're cash flow positive now, so
Correct.
that's also good. Yep. Okay, got it. We understand now. Any more question from you, Jason?
Oh, any deep tech aspirations?
Yes, truthfully, I really want to do AI, but for contracts, right? To do contract review, like dedicated tool. Um, Not like a chat GPT, but more like a Microsoft Word plugin. I see a
Mm,
lot of pegs there and I see a big opportunity. I don't think AI will ever replace lawyers, but I
Mm.
think we could augment how like us lawyers do our legal work. So I am, but it will be that will be more targeted towards lawyers. That's why I'm also betting big on that legal research line. So we already have that relationship with the lawyers. So I think that is the opportunity, deep tech with AI, selling to lawyers.
So you said you make 8 to 12 US a month for these law libraries that you sell to legal professionals. How big of the legal professional market are there in the Philippines? If you were to capture most of the market, like what does it look like?
That's a great question. So I'm happy to say, if I'm if I recall correctly, the Philippines has the most lawyers in Southeast Asia. But definitely we have 50,000 like living lawyers, right? So I would truthfully have an estimate, like if we look at like CD Asia, they have they're the market leader in the Philippines. They don't have public data because they're a private company and they have never raised funding. They're like a 20-year-old company. But my estimate is if we were to do it pretty well, we could easily, if we become the market leader, not it won't be easy, but we could get to $200,000 a month, right? So around
Yeah.
2.4 M ARR after.
160 divided by 8, I guess that puts you about 20,000 lawyers, 20,000 lawyers paying that subscription fee.
If that's the case, that would be a lot higher. Maybe we could get
Oh,
like $1 million or more. Especially if you, in our legal research, it's not just one module that they pay for. Like you can avail labor law regulations, corporate law regulation, intellectual property. Like it's pricing by module, so it's not just a one-time fee. So you can really, if we get to 20,000 lawyers, the market could be bigger. But we're just assuming just pure Supreme Court decisions, in general, not specific practice areas like tax or law or labor.
do you handle any company secretarial work at present?
Yes. When it's lumped into the retainer plans, but yes, we do a lot of corporate secretary, the
Because
annual compliance, the annual reports, and the board meetings and secretary certificates. We prepare a good deal of those also.
company secretaries are mandatory to be paid regardless.
Yes. We saw the business model of our competitors, so yeah, they make a good amount of money there. So yes, we do corporate secretary work.
Cool. Okay, cool. I have no more questions.
Thank you.
So, um, at what valuation are you looking at if you are going to raise the next round of money? And since you're working towards, let's say, a more, it's longer term, like can you share with us your fundraising aspiration or goals or your strategy there? Like in terms of how much do you want to raise, at what valuation, what are we looking at? Because you've actually built currently a cash flow positive business, but we also need to, like a financial strategy and fundraising strategy are totally different thing, right? I mean, like, depending on how you want to fundraise will determine, like your numbers.
Uh, Thank you, Paul. I've been thinking about this deeply. Like, I think we were gonna fundraise. Um, Hopefully, with the good funding conditions, we could get to around like 500,000 USD at a 5 million valuation. Like at most, that would be our hope. Like we'd sell like 10% of the company outright. It could be more if we're using that to, if we were to dominate the legal research side and help
Mm,
the legal services. If we're gonna try the deep tech uh, angle with the AI, ideally I'd like to use the earnings from this business unit to fund the next one. But if we
mm,
were to try to do the contract review I think the number would be different, but I'd estimate like truthfully like, but we'd need the numbers to justify in the traction, I would think, but around
right,
$2 million at
right.
a 20 million valuation.
And you just, from what you shared, 500K at 5 mil valuation, that's a 10x you're
Correct.
looking at. And so, uh, how are you going to, so what if, so that, and if you're thinking IPO, so what's your strategy you have in mind? What are you doing to achieve that kind of 10x exit value for investors?
So that's a great question, Paul. So we actually, we're planning to actually get to the point that we could declare dividends. Though I know if you do go the VC route, that might not be so attractive to that. So truthfully, like if we're looking at investors, we're looking at like strategic partners. Those are in the same industry or industry adjacent, like law or accounting or HR, like that might see the value of it. But as to how to increase the go-to market, we actually are very strong on Google. So we'd like to double down. We get a lot of organic growth. Our customer acquisition cost can be really, really low, depending on how you look at it.
Yep.
Law firms don't tend to compete that well on, or the legal service providers don't compete that hard on Google.
And
So we
this
could
kind of user base, they come from Google search engine searches
correct,
anyway. So you are going to double down on your SEO marketing and
correct,
stuff.
correct.
Got it. All right.
But,
Any more last questions, Jason?
no, I'm good.
Okay, so yeah, I think we're good. Thank you for the time is up, and then thank you for your explanation and pitch. It's very exciting to see a cash flow positive business, you know. So, you know, for all it's worth, you know, well done to you on that front, Raymond.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Jason. I
Yeah.
appreciate
Yep.
it.